And so it continues. Another black man was shot and killed by a white police officer in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and lawlessness, chaos has followed. I'm sure many of you guys are aware of the riots that are taking place currently in Wisconsin and other cities as well. Riots that have been taking place over the course of the last couple months, ever since the George Floyd incident. These are some crazy times we're living in. Crazy times where nothing makes sense. Nothing has to make sense. I don't know how people support this movement. I don't understand how people can't see the hypocrisy in it and can't see all the double standards and don't look at the facts and the statistics. It doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't have to make sense. Being 100% factually correct doesn't matter anymore to a lot of people. People are stuck in their ways, stuck in their mindset, and they act on emotion. This movement is a bunch of BS. These riots, this lawlessness and chaos and destruction of these cities is in no way, shape, or form justified. And yet so many people still support it. So many people are blind. The name of the movement is Black Lives Matter, which is a very obvious statement to many, but the organization itself is bullshit. And they don't actually care about black lives. The people in this movement are standing up against police brutality, preferably when it's a white cop killing a black man. And they're standing up against all these racial injustices, they say. They are protesting such a small percentage. I've gone over this, many people have gone over this, but it doesn't fucking matter to them. It's a tiny percentage of unarmed black men being killed by police officers. And some of those shootings are justified. Many of them are. There is this strange belief that black people are being killed disproportionately by police officers, and the data says otherwise. You know, you may think that is true, but once you look at the percentage of black Americans who are committing violent crimes, then it makes sense. Black people make up a small percentage of the US population, but are responsible for a large percentage of violent crimes. If you're committing violent crimes, then of course, you're more likely to have an encounter with a police officer. This is common sense. And you know, I'm not being insensitive to those who have lost their life. I'm just thinking about this in a rational way. The media spews out all these lies, people buy into it, and they think they're standing up for something good. Well, I can tell you right now, damn near everyone is against police brutality and against racism. And a lot of people support peaceful protests. But you know what divides us? Are these riots. These peaceful riots. The peaceful vandalism, the peaceful assault, the peaceful arson. That's what divides us, because some people support that and others condemn it. And I'll tell you right now, destroying our cities every time a man is shot by a police officer, which I think in Minneapolis right now, as I'm recording this, I think people are looting and destroying buildings because a man shot himself. The cops were pursuing this guy because he was connected to a homicide. He shot himself and people are looting. This is insanity. These people are opportunists. They'll use anything as a reason to loot and destroy the city. The facts don't matter. Everyone is so quick to react. But the destruction of our cities is in no way, shape, or form justified. See, that's what divides us. It's people that think that's okay and others who don't. The name of the movement is Black Lives Matter. You are destroying black lives by burning down their businesses. People, including black people, are dying during these senseless riots. This movement does not actually care about black lives, and it's so fucking clear they just care when an officer, preferably white, kills a black man. And that is such a small fucking percentage, and some of these shootings are justified. I will never support a movement that only cares about that small percentage. And if you bring up black on black crime, where a larger percentage of black people are falling victim, you get so much shit for that. How dare you bring that up? This isn't about black on black crime. We don't care about those black lives. No, we just care about the smaller percentage of black lives lost by the hands of police officers. Those are the black lives we care about, not all the other black lives. Are you kidding me? This movement is so fucking hypocritical, man. I'm not racist. I'm against police brutality. And I agree with a certain level of police reform. But this BLM movement, nah, this ain't it. This ain't justice. And this ain't gonna end the way people think it will. No. This movement might bring about change. It's not gonna be very productive change, but things will change. Shit will pop off. It's only a matter of time. After they destroy every city in America, you're not gonna have people saying to themselves, "Oh, I get it now. We need police officers to stop killing black people." And that's what they say, stop killing us. They want police officers to stop killing black people, which is such an absurd statement because there are not police officers out and about actively hunting down and killing black people. But people are growing tired of all this nonsense. If anything, this movement is losing supporters because of all this chaos and destruction. That shit is not justified, and some people act as if it is, but it is not. And this will not end well if it keeps up. We're already seeing civilians going down to these cities armed with weapons, defending businesses. You saw the Proud Boys and BLM clash in Portland. Shit's gonna pop off. It's only a matter of fucking time. The fact that it's gone on this long, the fact that governors and mayors have allowed these people full reign to do whatever they want in the city is absurd. It's gone on for far too long, but it'll end. It will end. It's as if these cities are being surrendered to criminals. Law enforcement, National Guard, they're deployed for crowd control, but they're not defending these businesses and defending the people out there that get assaulted. Well, I mean, some of the times they do, but a lot of the time they don't. They can't, because there's more of them than there are police officers. This shit needs to stop. There is a conversation to be had about all this, but you're not going to get that conversation with this chaos. This is not the path to justice, and it's only going to end bad. And people like to say this movement isn't a political matter. They say it's about human rights. I hate to break it to you, but this movement has definitely been politicized. I mean, fucking coronavirus has been politicized. A lot of this is political. There's an election coming up, and things like BLM, coronavirus, they are used as tools to sway votes. The Jacob Blake shooting is what kicked off these riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin. When I first watched that video, my initial reaction was, okay, he was reaching into the car. They don't know what he's reaching for. That's threatening the officer's life. They shot him. I would have liked to have seen the officers tase him or tackle him before he opened the car door and reached in. That didn't happen. He was reaching and they shot him. But later on, we got footage of another angle that shows the officers wrestling with him on the ground. The officers had already tased this man. They wrestled him on the ground, tried to subdue him. He got out. The officers drew their guns. They're yelling commands at him. He's disobeying them. He walks around to the driver's side of the car, opens the door, reaches in, gets shot 7 times. Was 7 times excessive? Yeah, I'd say so. Was he justifiably shot? Yeah, I'd say so. This man had a criminal record. He was a felon. He had a warrant out for his arrest at the time this incident occurred, and the cops knew that. I think he had a warrant out for domestic abuse, sexual assault. This man wasn't a good person. He had done terrible things. We treat these people like they're heroes, like they're wonderful people that have fallen victim to police brutality. He was a shitty person, and he got shot because he wasn't following the officer's orders. Now, I'm not saying it's justified to be shot just because you're not complying with police officers. But when you're reaching into your fucking car, that's threatening the life of the officers. They don't know what you're reaching for. They know you've been charged with felonies and you had a warrant out for your arrest. They know that. I mean, what could he have been reaching for? I mean, it's not crazy to assume he was reaching for a weapon. When I watch that video, I see how it could all be avoided if the man just followed orders. Put your hands up, get on the ground. He has guns drawn on him by 2 officers. Right? He had already been tased, tackled to the ground, got out of it, and now he has guns drawn on him. And he's ignoring the officer's commands. Walking away from the guns, opens his car door and reaches in. You could classify that as suicide. Is it unfortunate he got shot in front of his family? Of course. But he brought that upon himself. All he had to do was comply. And everything would have been fine. Maybe he would have gotten locked up, but that's his own fault. And for those of you who don't know Jacob Blake, he did not die, but he is paralyzed from the waist down. And after I first watched that video, I began asking myself, what went down prior to this? Why were the officers called? Did this man have a weapon on him? These are the things I'm asking myself, because I don't want to jump to conclusions. You shouldn't jump to conclusions. But meanwhile, while I'm looking at this footage and I'm thinking about it rationally, people are out destroying the city. Any reason to go out and loot, riot, vandalize buildings, set fires, people react immediately. They don't care about the facts. Like I said, people are looting in Minneapolis right now because somebody killed himself. And of course, just like other incidents that have occurred, you have your people on social media sharing the video around, virtue signaling. Oh my God, the cops were so out of line. I can't believe they shot this innocent man, this wonderful man. He was such a great person and these cops took his life away. How dare those evil cops? They had no reason to shoot him. Except, as I already mentioned, I believe that was justified. I mean, if that wasn't justified, at what point is it justified? This man was reaching into the car. It takes milliseconds to turn around, aim that gun at an officer, and pull the trigger. This was a man who had a warrant out for his arrest. And all he had to do was follow orders. All he had to do was comply. And everything would have been fine. And people don't want to focus on that. They want to gloss right over that. They don't like to talk about how it so easily could have been avoided if the man had just listened. And honestly, it's kind of a similar thing with the George Floyd case. If George Floyd would have just gotten in the car, he wouldn't have been on the ground. He asked to be put on the ground. If you saw the additional body cam footage. Had George Floyd just got in the car, I mean, the cops were talking with him for a while. Tell him to get in the car, saying they're going to put the air conditioner on or roll down the windows and wait with him. Those cops were being very patient with him. Now, again, I haven't seen anyone defending the knee on the neck. Okay? People are against that. They say, yeah, that was out of line, shouldn't have had the knee on the neck. But hey, if George Floyd would have complied, everything might have been fine. Actually, maybe it wouldn't have been fine. Because George Floyd's medical examiner, news came out today, or recently, that George Floyd had a fatal level of fentanyl in his system. And that could have been the cause of death. It might not have been asphyxia from the knee on the neck. Still not justifying the knee on the neck, I'm just saying that matters. What am I saying? Facts don't matter. They don't matter to these people. Why would they wait to get the facts? Because this movement is bullshit and they're opportunists. They don't actually care about black lives. Only the black lives lost to officers. Like in Minneapolis when David Dorn was shot for defending a store from looters. Where the fuck was his media coverage? Where the fuck was his media coverage? That was a good guy. Shot dead. But people don't protest that. I cannot get behind a fucking movement that ignores tragedies like 𝗪𝗃𝗃𝗃. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A 5-year-old boy riding his bike. He rode his bike into his neighbor's yard. His neighbor shot and killed him. That gets ignored. But hey, we'll protest, riot, burn down cities for fucking criminals, even if they were justifiably shot. Where the fuck was 𝗪𝗃𝗃𝗃's media coverage? Which city did we burn down for him? You fucking hypocrites. These delusional pieces of shit, man. I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of the double fucking standards. 𝗪𝗃𝗃𝗃 was white. The man who killed him was black. And that's why the media doesn't cover it, because it doesn't fit their narrative that they're trying to push. I'm not aware if the media finally covered it after a couple days went by, but they were silent for a while. And just think to yourself, what if the roles were reversed? The races were reversed. If it was a white man that had shot a black 5-year-old boy riding his bike. Oh my God. The world would burn. Buildings would light themselves. The buildings would just magically go up in flames. Without any human interaction. They would just engulf in flames. The world would explode. And that would be the end. Oh, you know the media would have covered that. They wouldn't have shut the fuck up about it. But because 𝗪𝗃𝗃𝗃 was white and the man who killed him was black, it doesn't get covered. People aren't outraged by it. The double fucking standards. And what about what happened in the NBA a couple days ago? I don't know the player's name, but it was a black man who yelled, bitch ass white boy, or pussy ass white boy. I'm not exactly sure which one it was, but he yelled that at a white player on the other team. Now, nothing really came of that. That was fine. I don't think there were any repercussions for the player as of the time I'm recording this. But what if it was the other way around? What if the white guy yelled, bitch ass black boy? Oh my God, the world would be outraged. I'm so sick of the double standards, man. And people need to wake the fuck up. Yeah, not gonna support a movement and people that ignore shit like that. Fuck that. Not gonna support a movement that cheers when police officers are harmed. Some people wish death upon police officers. They chant kill cops. ACAB, all cops are bastards. All of them? Wake the fuck up. They're human beings. They're the same as you. You try to lump them all together. And that is just wrong. And what would have happened? What would have happened if 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 was not shot? What if the officers didn't shoot him? And 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 had turned around and shot the officers? What if that had happened? Would we be hearing about it? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I guarantee you wouldn't have heard a goddamn fucking thing. Would we be rioting in the streets for those officers? Because they were killed? Nah. Nope. Nope. And that happens. Officers do die because they don't pull the trigger. We ignore that. And you fucking cowards on social media sharing these videos around, critiquing the officers, saying what they should have done, shut your fucking mouth. You don't know shit. Tweeting these videos out from the comfort of your own fucking home. What would you have done in this situation? You might have handled the situation worse. Oh, well, I didn't sign up to be a cop. That's not my job. Well, then shut your fucking mouth. Even if you had signed up to be a cop and you went through all the training, you still might have handled the situation worse. You don't know shit. If you were that officer standing behind 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 as he reached into his car, knowing that he had a warrant out for his arrest, he had a criminal history, he was charged for felonies, you might have done the same thing. Let's say you had a family to get back home to. You might have pulled the trigger even quicker. And sure, like many cases, it can always be handled better. I don't agree with the 7 shots. And it would have been nice if the officers were able to subdue him when they had him on the ground and after they tased him. Oh, and if you want to point to that, the fact that they couldn't hold him on the ground and say, oh, they were unfit to do their job. Well, then that's even more of a reason not to defund the police. Increase the funds. Hold officers to a higher standard. Require more training. But anyway, he wasn't complying. He got off the ground. Guns were drawn. He disobeyed, reached into his car. He was shot. It was justified. And these cowards on social media who just so happen to be experts on de-escalation and police encounters, they're sharing the video around, tweeting all kinds of things about the incident. But you ignore the real tragedies. You're so selective on what you want to talk about. Why aren't we talking about when officers are being killed? Why aren't we mourning their deaths? You never know when a police officer is killed because people don't like to talk about it. Media doesn't want to report it. You know, I feel weird talking about this because it is so obvious there are a ton of double standards. Another thing I've been seeing over the last few days is people who will share videos of other police-involved incidents where a white guy is involved, right? And officers will have guns drawn on the white guy and they never pull the trigger. They'll yell commands at the white guy for a while and give him all the time in the world to comply. And people will say, oh, look, they see that, look, he's white, so they're not shooting him, he's white. Oh, but 𝗪𝗶𝗹𝗹 and other black people, they're so quick to shoot him. And maybe you would have a point if the situations were the same, with the same officers involved. But that's not the case. These are two completely different situations with different officers. These are different people. And white people do get shot by police officers, both black and white. There are black people who don't get shot by officers. But we're not talking about any of that. We're just highlighting when a officer kills a black person. And that armed 17-year-old white man who had reportedly, I think, shot and killed 2 people in Wisconsin during the riots, people are pointing to that and saying, look, he's white. He had shot and killed people. He's walking down the street with an AR-15. Cops didn't shoot him. And the cops cannot win in that situation. They really can't. Because if the cops say to themselves, look, we don't want to kill this guy, well, then they point the finger and say, oh, look, it's because he's white. And if they do kill him, then people will be outraged because they shot a man. And they'll say, oh, look, he wasn't aiming his AR-15 at them. How dare they shoot him? There's so many double standards. You cannot fucking win. I'm not somebody who loves law enforcement or even loves America. Yeah, America's the best country on earth. We can do no wrong. Yeah, I love my country. Like, that was never me. But in recent years, with all the hate that America and law enforcement get, I don't feel the need to critique these things. I don't necessarily feel like criticizing law enforcement right now because everybody else got that covered and they're getting way more hate than they deserve. And I'm not going to join in with that. Now, if anything, I feel like I have to defend them because they should be defended. This level of hate for law enforcement is out of line. And if you say back the blue, Blue Lives Matter, you're a terrible person. I will not support a movement that rejects phrases like all lives matter, back the blue, Blue Lives Matter. You fucking kidding me? Wake the fuck up, people. Wake up. This movement is bullshit and they do not actually care about black lives. They want chaos, destruction. They want to tear the system down. And there's plenty of opportunists who take advantage of this. And no, it's not just Antifa responsible for all the destruction. They're part of it, but Black Lives Matter is as well. There's people out there burning down businesses, burning down car lots, owned by people who have nothing to do with police brutality. Some of these businesses are owned by black people. People are dying in these riots. I don't know what the number's up to, but people are dying in the riots. Black people are dying in the riots. But yeah, just keep burning shit to the ground, assaulting people, and chanting Black Lives Matter. How righteous of you. And you know, I think that car lot that they set on fire in Kenosha, Wisconsin, I believe there was a Black Lives Matter sign out front. I've never seen so much irony in one picture. Another thing that happened during these riots is protesters harassing people just eating at a restaurant. They want them to put their fist up in solidarity, and they try to harass them into doing it. And to my knowledge, they didn't put the fist up, and good for them. I'd hate to see people succumb to the pressure. Stand your ground. Do not give in to these people. Black Lives Matter is a movement built on lies. And whether you support Black Lives Matter or not shouldn't depend on what your political affiliation is. That shouldn't matter, but it seems like for the most part it does. It seems as if a lot of people on the right are against it and people on the left support it. And you know, that's another thing. We divide ourselves way too much based on our political affiliation. Right, left, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. But if there has to be a divide, if we're going to divide ourselves, can't we divide ourselves in a way that's a little more productive? How about we separate ourselves based on people who have common sense, people who do not, people who make excuses, people that don't, people who lie and steal, and people who are honest and work hard to earn what they want, people who can take a joke, people who can't, people who cheat, people who don't, people who jump to conclusions, and people wait till they have the facts. You see, if we're going to divide ourselves, let's divide ourselves by those characteristics. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like that makes a little more sense. All this madness needs to end. And don't give me all that, oh, well, it'll end when the police brutality ends. You could say that for anything. You could say, oh, we're rioting, we're burning down cities because of A, B, or C, whatever. You could choose any cause. Many people are against police brutality, but this chaos is not okay. And hey, I'll say something that's kind of controversial, but fuck it. The severity of what's going on with BLM right now, the destruction of cities, is a much larger issue than police brutality at the moment. Like, these two things, they are not equals. Police brutality is not okay. It's an issue. I don't know if it's as widespread of an issue as some may think, and it is not targeting Black Americans, but these riots, much more severe issue at the moment, and it needs to end now. Most people are anti-racist, condemn police brutality, would like to see some level of police reform, agree that Black Lives Matter, agree that all lives matter, but you can't say that. But the main reason there's a divide right now is because they do not support this chaos. The chaos needs to end. And you know, now it seems like protesters going to residential areas, shouting at people in their homes. There's a line, and it's about to get crossed. Should have been crossed a long time ago, but these pussy-ass mayors and governors don't do anything about these riots. Sometimes it seems like they support it. The media refers to these fucking riots as peaceful protests. How are we still calling these peaceful? God, at least just call them peaceful riots, okay? Call them peaceful riots. How about that? And the last thing I want to touch on is that I think a lot of the reason shit gets stirred up to the severity that it does nowadays has a lot to do with the fact that everyone has a camera in their pocket and social media. People whip out their phones, record a 20-second clip, throw it up on Twitter. People jump to conclusions, share it around. Whereas back in the day, before the internet, before camera phones, you may not have known any of this shit was going on. And I'm not saying it's okay for immoral acts to take place as long as you don't hear about it. But seeing how some things get blown out of proportion, I do feel, yeah, it's probably best we don't know about certain things. Because people can't handle it. And they react on emotion. There's a lot of stories about different police-involved incidents, but like, if there's no video footage, it doesn't get as much attention. The video is more powerful. People just love to share around their 20-second clips without any fucking context and jump to conclusions. God, fuck this world. And you know, I was thinking about this the other day. You know, cell phones, smartphones, the internet, this is still fairly new. It's such a significant part of our lives. It's a huge part of our lives. And it's still pretty new. It's not like there have been people who have lived their entire lives, unless their lives were cut short, with access to the internet and smartphones. This stuff is still pretty new, all things considered. And I do think that has a huge influence on why we act the way we do when it comes to certain things. I mean, you really start to see the harm that can be caused by everyone having a camera on them at all times and social media. Things get taken out of context, misinformation gets spread around all the time. I mean, it wouldn't be such a bad thing if people just knew how to handle all this. Access to the internet and these devices, but I think it kind of clouds people's judgment and leads them to react in improper ways. But that's going to just about do it for this one. I really wanted to get my opinion out there on this. I want people to know how I feel about this. And I know there's others who feel the same way. Some people aren't open about it because online these are unpopular opinions. But I question how unpopular they really are. I think a lot of people just stay silent. But who really knows? There's an election coming up. Maybe that might tell us something. That's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.